make your day richer than it was before. Got some good times knocking upon your front door.
Well, hi everyone. Welcome to the 204th episode of Make Your Day Richer. And it's the beginning of an era, the end of an era. For the last, 5 years, I have been using StreamYard, which was brought to my attention, of course, by the one and only Rosie O'Donnell. So we started using it. I have done, at this point, probably thousands of hours of shows, of live streams, of podcasts with a variety of people. And today is our first day without it. And we're using a new program. So I'm just warning you now. If I screw something up, which I did even in StreamYard after 5 years, I apologize to anybody who's watching and our guests today because I don't really know what I'm doing. It's different. It's EVMux for those of you doing podcasts and live stream. EVMUX. Really fun program. I've been playing with it for the last week, preparing for today. Really cool. Much more wallet friendly than our friends at StreamYard, which is very sad to me. They kind of have priced themselves out of my budget. And so, but this is cool. It's very similar, but different. There's some better things. There's some equal things. It's really interesting. So if you are interested in starting a podcast or upgrading yours, check this out because it's kind of fun. And hopefully I won't screw too much stuff up. Here, let me get ready for the next scene. Great transitions here. Are you ready? All right. So it's the 204th show. How does that mean in 204 shows? How many views and downloads have we accumulated? Let's take a look. See, I knew something was going to happen. 332,049 views of this show since we have started. So thank you to everybody who watches this show, who shares the show, who downloads it, who does all the things, wherever you're doing that. Thank you so, so much. And now's a good time to just share the show. Wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, just share it, would you? And we'll get to 333,000 by tomorrow. Okay, I told you on Friday that I was going to bingo. I won one round of bingo out of 2 hours of playing bingo, and one's nothing. But I'll be there next week. I love bingo. There were kids there and there were people my age, but it feels like you're supposed to be old to play bingo, which maybe I am. I don't know. Okay. I went also thrift store shopping this weekend. I went to an antique store because that's what I do on the weekends. And look what I bought for my little collection of stuff, of Rosie stuff. I found the VHS of Tarzan. Come on. I used to have all of her movies on VHS, and I don't know what happened to them. And then I also found from McDonald's back in 1995 one of their toy figurines in the box from Tarzan, which is pretty fun. So that'll be out here somewhere at some point. Did you know that outside of this show, like I was saying before, I help other podcasts with their editing and production, and Gorilla HR, which is there we go, a podcast about human resources. So if you are an employer or you are employed, you should be listening to this podcast. New episode every week. It's audio only, but there is a video on YouTube, so you can find it where we get that. And take a look at this clip.
To put somebody below what we're going to pay, how would that make her feel? Does that say we value her? No. Is that going to help us as a business be successful? No. So why would we do that? Instead, what I want you to do is think about what you're willing to pay. Now, my recommendation is, of course, always to look at the market to figure out what do you have to pay in order to be competitive. But there's going to be some internal things that might adjust that number as well. So what I would encourage employers to do, and you can actually apply this as a job seeker as well. You could follow the same advice to figure out what you should ask for a job or to evaluate an offer. And that's going to be to look at some market data. So what I would do is really evaluate the position based on the duties and the responsibilities. What are you asking of this role? What are the essential functions that this role must perform? Then when we go out to look at market data, we're going to be looking for skills that match that. So it's not about title. To put somebody below what we're going to pay, how would that make her feel? Does that say we value her? No. Is that going to help us as a business be successful? No. So why would we do that? Instead, what I want you to do is think about what you're willing to pay. Now, my recommendation is, of course, always to look at the market to figure out what do you have to pay in order to be competitive. But there's going to be some internal things that might adjust that number as well. So what I would encourage employers to do, and you can actually apply this to as a job seeker as well. You could follow the same advice to figure out what you should ask for a job or to evaluate an offer. And that's going to be to look at some market data. So what I would do is really evaluate the position based on the duties and the responsibilities. What are you asking of this role? What are the
All right. You can go to gorilla-hr.com for more information about Becky, Gorilla HR, and the podcast. And then if you need help with your podcast, live stream, talk show, send me an email at makeyourdayricher@gmail.com and we can get you rolling. Okay, so far fairly smooth. Lots of buttons to press, lots of things happening. I only had one screw up and we're 6 minutes and 30 seconds in. Do I have anything else to tell you? I'll talk about that tomorrow. Okay, I think we should start because we have a really good show today. Amazing people, amazing guests. And why am I here talking when other people could be talking more? My first guest is not only a talented author, but also a dedicated advocate for fellow creatives. George Sirois is the host of Excelsior Journeys, a fantastic podcast where he spotlights. Have I had enough coffee today? I'm not sure. He spotlights the personal journeys of artists and creators. As the co-founder of the Once Upon a Podcast network, George is passionate about inspiring, motivating, and celebrating creatives everywhere. He's also the author of the Excelsior series, and because, I guess he needs more stuff to do, he also has the From Parts Unknown. Please welcome George Sirois. Well, hello, sir. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. This is going to be a lot of fun.
I'm excited to talk to you because your story kind of reminds me of myself when I was a kid and the need to create and the way you just sort of did what you wanted to do and maybe didn't even know what you were doing. Did you know at what, 6 years old that you were actually making an audiobook, or were you just creating?
I just really wanted to do something nice for my cousin because during that time, my cousin was recovering from cancer surgery, and he knew that I had these storybooks. There were the storybooks on tape, so they had the little mini books of the Star Wars trilogy. They had one for Raiders of the Lost Ark. They had one for E.T. All the different blockbuster movies that were out, and he had asked if I could make copies of those tapes so that way he could listen to them while he was going through chemo. And I said, I can do one better. And I went ahead and just sat down at my grandmother's place and I recorded. I believe I remember recording the entire trilogy, the whole Star Wars trilogy.
Oh my gosh.
And it was fun. I mean, each one of them was only about 20 minutes long or something. So, but I read slow enough so that I didn't screw up, and even put in a little chime of my own to turn the page, even though he's not turning a page because he didn't have the books with him. But it was just something fun to just kind of put in there. And then when it was all said and done, I went ahead and delivered it. And he listened to that a lot during his time dealing with chemo. He's unfortunately no longer with us. But he didn't pass away until 2005, when he was just a week before his 25th birthday. But at that time, he had accomplished every single thing he ever wanted to do. So he wanted to be an altar boy. He wanted to be an Eagle Scout. He wanted to be a Boy Scout, and he made it all the way to Eagle Scout. He wanted to be a volunteer firefighter, and so he became one. And he wanted to be EMT, and he not only became that, but he was kind of the mascot of his group because he didn't even clear 5 feet because of the chemo that's done in his growth. So, and he had gotten engaged. So he he found the love of his life for the rest of his life and did everything he wanted to do. So that was always like, that was my inspiration right there. It's just like, that's my hero right there.
What a
And
whole lot of life in such a short amount of time. Like he like truly living life to the fullest.
so in my own books, the main character in my trilogy that I have going on right now is named after him.
I love that. Is that what sparked your love of storytelling?
Like a lot of people in my generation, because I'm Generation X, and so everyone's life changed in some way or another when they saw Star Wars at a very impressionable age. And I had seen it when when my father took us to the first re-release back in '78. It didn't make as much of an impression on me because I wasn't even 2 years old at that point. And then later that year, we would see Superman. The opening credits scared me. So it was one of those things where just like I needed to be a little bit more older to really appreciate what was going on. And on February 1st, 1983, that's when Star Wars premiered on HBO. And I knew that was going to be an event because I had already gotten figures. I had already seen The Empire Strikes Back in theaters. So I knew that this was going to be something really, really something. And watching it that night was so special to me. And I felt like my life had changed ever since then. It was just like, I want to do that. I want to create a world like that. And I never stopped.
Yeah, I was going to say, how does it feel to have done that? I mean, you've written a small library of books. You've also created spaces where other people can also express themselves and put out their content. Like, how does that feel to be you right now?
So far it's been great. And somehow I've been able to juggle all this with a full-time job and with a family. And it's something that I am very grateful for.
So you have the Excelsior trilogy, you have the Parts Unknown series.
Yes.
What's the difference between, because I don't write books, what's the difference between a trilogy and a series?
Well, the trilogy is 3 parts. It's so you're basically telling a broader story, but you're doing it with 3 different stories that have their own beginning, middle, and end. And what I did with the serial from Parts Unknown, that was actually just meant to be one standalone book. And that original version wound up being about 230 something pages. And that came out as a result of thinking, oh, I think it's going to be a video game. And so I wrote that concept. And then I was like, well, let's see what it looks like as a treatment for a script. And I wrote that. Let's see how it looks like as a script. And I wrote 10 drafts of that. And then finally in 2001, I said, let's go ahead and write the novel. And so I started doing a novelization of the screenplay that never went anywhere. And so I decided it was going to come out as a book.
You do so much. Tell everybody about the Once Upon a Podcast, the network that you co-founded, and where people can find it.
So we're always on the lookout for shows that are all about inspiring, motivating, celebrating, educating, and even rejuvenating creatives everywhere. And so we wanted this to be something that was for creatives by creatives. We didn't just want it to be like a basic like pop culture review kind of show, because you can get those anywhere, and why compete with that? But at the same time, like we know that there are a lot of creatives that are different, that are dealing with different things, that are looking for different opportunities, that want to be inspired by other people that have stories similar to theirs. If they have books that have come out, if they have, comics or anything indie related, that's something that we really wanted to kind of give a shot to.
And where can people find it?
They can just go to onceuponapodcastnetwork.com, and that'll take them right over to the page, and they'll be able to see the different shows that we've had and the ones that are still going. And it's been a blast. It's been a blast doing it and being a part of it.
Well, it's been a blast having you here. I thank you so much. where can people best connect with you and follow you and support you?
You can find me on my main website, which is he'sgotit.com, as in by George, he's got it. And there you can access the podcast that I do, my main show, which is now called Excelsior Journeys, The Road to Creativity. But there is also my other shows.
Thank you so much for being here. And we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back after this. Don't go away. Life is difficult. Are you feeling overwhelmed or like you could use a little support for your mental well-being? Visit the Help Hub. It's the most comprehensive and inclusive free online destination for mental health resources, helpful tools, crisis hotlines, and supportive content. Just go to thehelphub.co to find the resources you need when you need them most. Unlike other resource pages, the Help Hub is divided into 16 different categories, ensuring that everyone in every community has access to the resources and support that matches their unique needs. Find the help you're looking for at thehelphub.co. Well, hi everyone, we're back. I think I'm gonna get this. Okay, it looks like, okay, here we go. My next guest is a versatile storyteller who has penned both a deeply impactful memoir and a heartwarming novel, and she has a fun new book because she wants y'all to laugh as well. Her memoir, Pieces of Me, Rescuing My Kidnapped Daughters, is a true story that has become a Lifetime original movie. Lizabth Meredith is here to share her experience as a writer and a host of the podcast Persistence U. So please welcome Lizabth Meredith. Let's see. Did it work? Okay, good. Good morning.
Great. And I am so thankful that we could connect again, Richard.
I
Thank
know. What people probably don't know is that it seems like eons ago, I was on your podcast talking about arts and health a long time ago.
That's right. And I loved it. It was so inspiring and it was such a fun connection. So it was like, oh, yay, Richard, we get to see each other again.
I know. And I think when we matched on Podmatch, I don't think either of us realized it at first. And then I think you sent me an email and you were like, is this Richard, like Richard Wilmore? And I
like
yes.
My Richard from 2021.
Yes. So fun. Well, tell everybody about your podcast because I love it. And I think everybody should be watching or listening.
Aw, thank you. Well, Persistence U, and it's like the letter U as in university with Lizbeth. Every week or every show, I should say, I host it twice a month. I have guests who are people who've gone through something and they have learned to incorporate it into their lives and they want to share their takeaways and lessons learned. Sometimes it's something fabulous that they went through and they definitely want to share that. Sometimes it's something pretty difficult, but they have takeaways that are so inspirational and things that they've learned and friendships and connections that they've forged a lot of times in life. And I learned this in my own life. A lot of times it's those awful, awful times that we experience where you grow the most, or you make the most meaningful connections. And sometimes you even get the best hobbies and interests as a result. So that's where Persistence U came from.
It's hard to, when you're going through that stuff, everybody hears it all the time, like, oh, this is going to make you stronger. Oh, what have you learned? But when you're in the middle of it, it doesn't always feel like, oh, I'm going to create something great after this, or life's going to be really good, or this is going to teach me. And what I realized last night after watching the movie Stolen by Their Father, based on your book, that you have gone through some as well.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and I like to tease that, like, you don't just get a Lifetime TV movie because your life was happy. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
kind of the gold standard for things were at one point super, super difficult. But they didn't stay that way forever. And I feel like life in general dishes out a lot to all of us. And it has those moments of greatness and fun and excitement, but it has so many others. And one of the things with Persistence U that I try to make sure that we have is a balanced approach. Like, I don't believe that you can just manifest some great life. It takes a lot more than good intentions and willing away bad stuff. And sometimes we just have to acknowledge that we're not alone in our hard times.
Did you always have this mindset, or what how did you get here?
It's a good question. I mean, when I was very young, I think I had a lot of shame and embarrassment about different things that were going on in my family of origin, but there were some great things too. I mean, to be honest. So I didn't always feel like, hey, I could talk about this. But as I got older, it was leaving a violent marriage. And it wasn't an option if I wanted to be different that I would stick within my family of origin that I knew. Turns out I had a whole bunch more family that I didn't know. But, I didn't want to keep doing the rerun. I didn't want to have my life continue to mirror the very things that I complained about growing up. And so if I wanted to do different, I had to learn different, and that needed to be far from the folks that I was with. So I did start embracing help and reaching out. I got a college grant. That helped was my first, kind of reach out. Public assistance was so humiliating. Stayed in a shelter, went to support groups, all the things that nobody says when I grow up, I'm going to do that, you know.
Not on your bingo card, no.
Yes. And, speaking of bingo, I'm the age that you were talking about playing bingo, but I can't play bingo. So I'm proud of you for doing it.
Why can't you play bingo?
It's a lot of stimulation and a lot of
No.
people. It's just too much,
Yeah.
but I love that you did it. Good for you.
I don't go to like a bingo hall.
Oh.
Oh, no, that's same. No, that's too much. And people with all their daubers and they're 16. I go like our little community, like the HOA puts it on in the clubhouse, and there are like 10 of us. Yeah.
I love that. Okay. That is lovely. And
You can
see,
come next time.
thank
It'll be fun.
you. I would
Yeah.
love to. The thing is, a lot of times when we're going through hard times, or even good times, we tell ourselves things like, I'm not that kind of person that would reach out for help. I'm not that kind of person that would go to bingo. I'm an introvert. I'm not that kind of. And I think what we have to do is do what we know is the right thing instead of what we want to do sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's how I started learning to reach out for help and then working jobs that help me give back.
Yes. That's so smart, because where did I just hear that? That like someone had said, if you're feeling lonely, go find someone else who is lonely and give them time, and you end up helping both of you. And I was
Exactly.
like, oh, that's so smart. When did you start writing?
When I was a little kid, of course, I wrote a bunch of tragic poetry and hoped I would be a writer one day. I think my first published piece was like in 1990, I'm going to say 1991, when I got to intern in college for Alaska Men Magazine. And that was a magazine
Wow.
where you tried to, this was pre-match.com, pre-online stuff, where you got to put out people's stories in a magazine that was very popular. And, put out stories about bachelors so that women who were interested could reach out. And do you know, I have been, involved in 2 successful forever matchups that are so far forever. So that's kind of cool. The last thing you would expect from someone whose own marriage became a Lifetime TV movie. It's like I'm the
Again,
carrier.
giving back and helping other people. Yes.
I'm the carrier of love, but I just don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some of us are carriers.
Yes, I understand that. I want to talk about the book that the movie is based on, Pieces of Me, because as I was watching the movie, as I was reading the book, as I was thinking about you, like that is such a not even just a personal story. There's like that is down on your knees, the worst thing that could happen to someone, and you decided like I'm going to not only write about it, I'm going to put it out there probably to help other people and to connect with other people. What was that like, even to write the book and to relive all of that? And then I want to talk about what it was like to make that movie.
Right. Thank you for asking. That book took forever. I started that book when the kids first came home and I was 31. I'd already had an outline and I still have it. I wrote it in pen and it's fading now. But of the takeaways, I wanted people to understand, because I wanted people to understand about intimate partner violence. Why is it that people don't just hop right out of relationships that are obviously bad to other people? About intergenerational trauma, parental child kidnapping, those kind of things. So it took me 20 years, Richard. And I will tell you that the journalism degree that I got first before my other degree, it it was wonderful, but it's not the kind of writing that you need to do for a memoir. So I was awful. And every draft I was sure was the last one and it was great. And I kept being told, this is somewhat awful, and keep trying, keep trying, keep trying. And I did, I mean, when my kids were little and they first came back from Greece and they learned to speak English again, they hoped that that I would write a book, it would become a movie. By the time that I finally finished and it was ready to be published, they were like middle grown women who were almost the age I was when I got them home from Greece. So it was not easy. I took a lot of lessons, hired a writing coach, kept trying, did not use a ghostwriter. A lot of people said, just do that, but I wanted it to be mine. And it was hard. Yes, it was hard to write, but at some point I had been so numb to a lot of the things that had happened. It did help open me up. It was in the marketing that book that became difficult because I'm very lucky in that I was still living in Alaska at the time. I no longer live there, but I lived in the place where the crime happened, and there was a lot of news footage and people remembered that crime. And it was kind of well documented in our newspapers. So to see all of that helped me relive it, which actually was, and despite all therapy and all the help I'd gone to, I got sick a lot during that first year of marketing the book. It was so much, but it was really beautiful also. And I was thankful. I meant to market it for about a year very vigorously because it costs a lot of money to publish a book. It just does. People think you make a lot of money. No, I just wanted to minimize my losses.
Yeah.
And so I ended up marketing it about 2 years pretty vigorously. But after that, I just was very proud. And 2 years after, when I was winding down my efforts, I took a little trip to South America by myself. And I got contacted by a production company in Canada. I thought it was scammers, and it turns out it wasn't. It was a legitimate company that I came to love, Cineflix. And they were had read the book and were interested in creating a television movie. So I was very, very fortunate.
How hands-on were you making that film, and what was that like to watch? If you were on set, which I'm sure you were, like, what was that like to kind of watch your life play out like that?
Well, I will say that I was so fortunate to get the first option. That doesn't happen that much. And then I was told by a cinema attorney, and this is very important for people to know, if you're thinking about that kind of thing with your own books, see the right kind of attorney, not your literary agent. So I consulted with an attorney who told me what to watch out for so that I didn't ruin the whole thing. And then they optioned me a second time and then went into production during COVID. Now, during the pandemic, Canada, even though we're practically cousins, Alaskans and Canadians, they were very serious about their protocols, and we weren't always. And so they were very clear that now I couldn't come on set, and that dream would not happen. I couldn't be a part of that, but they certainly needed me for nothing. They did great. I was so fortunate in that the executive producer as well as the scriptwriter were the most amazing and empathetic individuals. So they would reach out to me with scripts or ask for input. What's the most important thing to you? What do you definitely want us to not get wrong? It was incredible. So I was very fortunate that though I wasn't there physically, I was there for the journey.
And it turned out so good. I don't even know how to else. It's such it's so cinematic, and it takes you all over the world. It takes you into your past, to the present. Like, it's so well done. So if you haven't read the book, read the book, watch them, just do both of them. Do you have an audio version of the book?
I do.
Okay,
I
good.
do. An audio version narrated by someone else who did the most masterful job. She was fabulous. And it's someone that we had a mutual friend. So she had skin in the game. But thank you for saying that. I thought they did such a good job with the movie. And even during the pandemic, they took the crew and filmed at some of the places that in Greece where the events occurred. It was a huge commitment. And I just think they did a fabulous job. They were up for a Canadian, in a sense, Oscar. There's a version of the Canadian Oscar. So it was at least acknowledged as a nominee. And I thought that they picked a fabulous cast and they did a great
Yeah.
job.
Yeah. As you were talking about, trying and keep going and trying again and trying again, knowing the little that I know about your life, it kind of seems like has been the theme for most of your life of keep trying, try again. Well, that sucked. Try again. Good luck.
Yeah.
Did it feel like that at some point? And how did you not give up in so many different parts of your life to become the person that you are now?
Thank you. I think, yes, that has kind of been my theme, which is why why the podcast is Persistence You. I'm not just saying this, I'm awfully clumsy. I have certain learning disabilities, have kind of a very volatile family of origin situation in which I didn't get to know all of my siblings. And, there are just a lot of things where at different times in my educational process, I did feel like I was the person who people assume, not everyone, but there were people who didn't expect much at all and would later tell me, hey, I didn't see that coming for you. At all. You were the last person one person did say this to me with one of my old instructors at a university. You were the last person I expected who could do
Wow.
X, Y, and Z. I appreciated the honesty. I know it was fueled by a little bit of an adult beverage, but it is important for people to know, life, it does feel sometimes like life is all about innate talent or good connections or wealth or whatever. But I'm here to tell you, there's still a place at the altar for people who don't have any of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so my next and I've written other things, but my next book will be on solo women, an anthology for solo women travelers who are older, who found healing and increased resilience through traveling alone. That for me was a really big thing. I had told myself, even into my 40s, man, it looks like I'm never going to be coupled. I'm not going to be rich enough to travel the world like I'd always hoped. It's too bad. And then I was like, wait a minute. A lot of the skills I learned when my kids were kidnapped and I had to live on a shoestring budget and travel the world and get lost in Greece on foot by myself. Hey, those can translate into some good things. And you know what? Once I took that first trip, I stopped whining. That really was a pivotal moment. I was like, okay, I can publish this book. I can keep moving forward. Someday I might die during one of these solo travels. That'll be sad, but it'd be worse to live life under my bed. So,
Oh, that's so true. So true. Your podcast, how often does it come out and like what day does it come out? Where can people get it?
Twice a month on Wednesdays. And wherever you listen to your podcast, it should be available. And I have a YouTube channel because now I have it on video and I need to grow that channel. So if anyone wants to subscribe, I am all for that. But Persistence You twice a month. I do teach college and I do some other things. So I just don't do it weekly anymore. And I love it so much now.
Yes, I do it every day. And sometimes I'm like, I would like to do this once a month. Yes. We have a clip of the podcast. Can you set it up for us and tell us what we're going to watch?
Absolutely. I had the pleasure of interviewing Patricia McLean, and she is an activist. My podcast is not necessarily about survivors of domestic violence or crime, but sometimes it does have survivors of crime. Patricia was married to a very famous songwriter and singer when I was a little girl, and he was much older than her. Her leaving that relationship, it was so public. It was had coercive control and violence. It inspired her to help other women not just in Maine, but start a virtual book group. And so, about survivors. And so this is my interview with Patricia McLean.
Okay, on Persistence You, take a look.
How was it in your life? I gave a little bit of an introduction, but do you remember a specific time or in the journey of you moving from being, frankly, a victim to survivor? When did you know that you wanted to create a beautiful masterpiece and serve other women who were experiencing intimate partner violence?
I think if I had to pick a moment, it would be maybe it seemed like it might have been a few days or very shortly after my then husband was arrested for domestic violence. And in our small town in Maine, there were headlines around the world, but it was the headlines in my local town paper that really were devastating. headlines of the domestic violence arrest.
How was it in your life? I gave a little bit of an introduction.
It's so good. Make sure you check out Lizbeth's YouTube channel. Is it under your name or is it under the podcast?
It's under my name. Good
Okay.
question. I should change that.
What is the best way that people can connect with you?
I have a website at lameredith.com. I have an author Facebook page as well. And of course, Persistence U podcast is a great way to connect.
Okay, good. I know you're also, can you talk about the fun book? Because it's not, Lizbeth also has fun. So let's talk about that.
This novel actually began with a huge grain of truth. When I was turning 40, or maybe had just turned 40, my teenage daughters were about to leave the home and sat me down and basically said, look, you're closing in on the last of your cute years. We're leaving home. You're going to be lonely and pathetic, and you need to get out there and meet someone. And, we can't fix this for you. So get out there in whatever way you need to, but we're worried about you. And so from that real experience came a lot of effort that was a journey. I often like to say in life, don't focus too much on your outcome, focus on your efforts. And my efforts led to some very funny experiences, but Tilka Faces the Odds is a novel in that there's no solid grain of truth, but there are lots of truths. And I've taken stories that I've heard, stories that I experienced, but changed them. The main thing is it focuses a lot on a different kind of love for daughters, love for female friendships or all friendships, a lot of resilience and redefinition and rediscovery. And so it was after releasing, I have written a lot about trauma in essays and books, but to write something fun, and I did narrate the audiobook, it has just been a joy to release something where I didn't feel like, sorry, you're about to cry.
Yeah.
It's been
Crying
joy.
is very important, but so is laughing. Yes.
Yeah, so it is. It so is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What do you love most about your life right now?
It is very simple. It is. I chose to move out of Alaska, where I love. And, my daughters, their next big birthdays will both be 40, so they're old enough for me to leave finally. And it's just quiet and simple. And I do a number of different things that make me very happy. And there's just nothing too strenuous. There are always in life. I mean, last year was kind of a volatile year in some ways for me, but those things will come and go. But my kids are alive and well. And, I get to write and I get to hang out with you during the day and I get to teach a little bit. I'm very fortunate. I'm not wealthy monetarily, but in many other ways, I truly am.
Oh, I love you so much. I'm so glad we reconnected.
Me too.
I can't thank you for the community that you're building, for the stories that you're sharing. It just means so much to the world. I hope you know that.
Oh, thank you, Richard. I have loved hanging out with you. Love seeing you. Hope to do it again.
Well,
And we'll
you know
figure
where
out
to find
something
me.
together again.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. Lizabeth Meredith, everybody. And then let's see if I can do this the correct way. All right, that's our show. Thank you so much for watching. Go make your day richer. Go make somebody else's day richer. You've made mine by watching this show, and I love you for it. I hope you're able to see this. We're probably doing this. It's not even broadcasting anywhere. I don't know. But we'll see you tomorrow, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.